Thank you, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you would have noticed at the Level 2 foyer earlier this morning, there is the exhibition on Copenhagen solutions. The exhibition will run throughout the day. I get extra music to go with my speech. The exhibition will run throughout the day, so please feel free to mingle and walk around and experience Copenhagen through the exhibition. I would now like to invite His Excellency Nikolai Ruhe, the Ambassador of Denmark, to present on Copenhagen. Your Excellency.
I would also like to thank Penang Institute and the EU delegation for having organized today's seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to follow my Dutch and Spanish colleagues by taking you to one of the Nordic countries, Denmark, and its capital, Copenhagen, the European Green Capital 2014, as you just saw. My task is a little different from my colleagues, since outside you may already have seen what I have to say. The Danish contribution to this session on EU's green cities and best practices is the exhibition Copenhagen Solutions, which has been put up outside. And there are many good reasons why Copenhagen had to be part of today's Green Urban Development Seminar. Besides having been nominated European Green Capital 2014, Copenhagen's Climate Adaptation Plan recently won the world's largest design prize, Index Award 2013. And then, of course, a city that is repeatedly being nominated the world's most livable city must be doing something right that is worth seeking inspiration from. Thank you. What is it then? Well, a sustainable world starts with sustainable cities. More than half of the world's population live in cities, and the number is only increasing. Between now and 2050, the world's population is expected to increase by well over 2 billion, and it's the urban areas of the world which will absorb the population growth. And while most of the world's wealth is created by urban residents, they are also responsible for about 75% of CO2 emissions of today, a number that will only increase. Copenhagen has decided to lead the way of setting itself the ambitious goal of becoming CO2 neutral by 2025. Ambitious, but not unrealistic. Reducing CO2 emissions, however, is just a small part of being a sustainable city. More importantly, it's also about expanding the economy and ultimately improving the quality of the life of the residents. When you invest in sustainability, the returns are measured in more than just environmental terms. To take a low-tech example, building up a bicycle infrastructure, for example, allows more people to choose the bicycle as a means of city transport, which in turn lead to both improved health and less CO2 emissions. Cycling has always been a Danish way of life, but Copenhagen has gone one step further and made cycling integral to urban planning. The majority of Copenhageners choose low-expense, quick and convenient cycling as their preferred way of getting around. 1 out of 2 Copenhageners use the bicycle as a means of transport to get to work, studies and shopping. How did that become possible? Well, generally, it's become possible by making sure that there are no missing links in the bicycle network, or ecosystem even, if you will. For example, the transport network is constantly being improved to make it easier for the Copenhageners to bring their bike on public transport, in particular the metro and commuter trains. Secondly, so-called bicycle superhighways have been built in order to make biking faster and safer. And thirdly, an abundance of cargo bikes have been designed and put on the market by private entrepreneurs, ideal for fetching your daily groceries and bringing the kids around. And also, lastly, traffic lights on major roads have been adjusted, so bicycles traveling at the normal speed of around 15-20 kilometers per hour won't have to stop for red light. Cars may have to stop, but not the bicycles. They are given the priority. It's estimated in Denmark that for every kilometer biked per person, the cost of healthcare is reduced by 3.3 ringgit. So let me use myself as an example. Before I moved to Malaysia, I commuted by bicycle from home to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, right in the heart of the city, a total distance back and forth of around 14 kilometers. That amounts to a reduction in national health expenses of almost 50 ringgit a day, or 17,000 ringgit a year. That's worth getting up on the bike for. Another example of how investing in sustainability brings not only social benefits but also financial benefits is water treatment. By a complete modernization of the sewage system, the water quality in the harbor of Copenhagen improved so much that it is now possible to swim in it. Today, the harbor area is one of the trendiest spots in Copenhagen, and during the summer it's bustling with kayaks, rowing boats, barbecue parties, and couples strolling along the pier, and families and businessmen alike take a swim in the heart of Copenhagen. Indeed, cleaning the water in the harbor improved not only the marine environment and the smell, it also brought back business to the harbor area, and local real estate prices went up 50%. Furthermore, there are also tremendous environmental gains in investing sustainably. 98% of the heating provided in Copenhagen comes from the district heating grid. District heating is one of the most carbon efficient and flexible ways to produce and supply energy locally, cutting out much of the waste associated with decentralized power generation. By integrating renewable energy such as biomass, surplus wind energy, and geothermal energy to replace fossil fuels in the system, Copenhagen has reduced its CO2 emissions for heating with 50% compared to the former primary oil and gas boilers. Furthermore, district heating can utilize and store the available heat, thereby reducing the primary energy consumption by 70% compared to individual boilers. To complement the highly successful district heating system, district cooling has also been introduced. And even though you may not think so, in Copenhagen, summer temperatures can actually reach well above 30 degrees Celsius, which leads to a demand in cooling. District cooling is the centralized production and distribution of chilled water, partly cooled with cold seawater. It's distributed via underground insulated pipelines to commercial and industrial buildings primarily to cool the indoor air. This leads to a reduction of up to 70% of CO2 emissions compared to traditional cooling methods, and an 80% reduction in energy consumption. These are just some of the examples of what Copenhagen has done in order to further its green development and adapt to climate change and reach the goal of becoming CO2 neutral in 2025. Considering how Malaysia is rapidly urbanizing, how climate change is evident here too, how clean water is a challenge, and how fuel and electricity costs are rising, it's my hope that the exhibition Copenhagen Solutions will inspire architects, urban planners, and authorities in Penang and elsewhere to continue to find new ways of generating green growth while improving urban living. If you feel you don't have enough time today to enjoy the exhibition outside, it moves on to the Faculty of Housing, Building and Planning at USM, Universitetet Malaysia, until 28 November. And when you become inspired by the exhibition, I invite you to travel to Copenhagen to learn more and see for yourself. That was all I wanted to say. Let me now show you a video about bicycling as an integral part of Copenhagen's green transport system. I burden you with a lot of numbers and statistics, so I think watching a video by an international journalist who can explain this much more lively than I can is probably going to make you remember it much better. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
The sights, sounds and smells of a city are all at the mercy of whatever rules its streets. Here in Copenhagen, it's bicycles.
Bikes in Copenhagen, it's like...
It's the heart of Copenhagen. I mean, it's... everybody bikes. Everybody.
Just, I don't know, a part of every day, the way I get around.
They're so good at making the city bicycle friendly. It's given the world a new word, Copenhagenization.
The concept of Copenhagenization has become a celebrated form of urban planning. It refers to what you see before you. A city that doesn't just make cycling possible, but redesigns its streets to make it the norm.
Your bike is your fellow, it's your friend who gets you from A to B.
It's the only natural way to get around.
If everything is good, in moderation, what's happened here is that cycling's become so popular, the city now finds itself faced with new challenges. Bike congestion.
What we've seen now is that there are so many people who bicycle that we started to have serious congestion problems on the bicycle lanes. They are in a full program now on trying to do something about it.
What you can have in rush hour is that you're lowering the average speeds of going by bike. And that's a problem. It's not about accidents, it's about speed.
Having spent years mastering the art of making streets bicycle friendly, the city is calling on established expertise to take them forward into phase 2.
First of all, it's a problem that we are very proud of, that we have a bike jam, not car jams in Copenhagen. But of course, we have to solve this problem.
Luckily, Copenhagen is already in the know when it comes to planning for two wheels, thanks to a process that started many years ago.
50 years ago, every street in Copenhagen was full from wall to wall with traffic. All the squares were parking lots. At that point, it was decided to push back the traffic. So gradually it's become safer and more convenient. And when this has happened, more and more people have taken to the bicycles. And why is it called Copenhagenization? That is because Copenhagen was absolutely the very first one who started along this road.
Today, more than half the adults in Copenhagen ride a bike to and from work every day. It is the transport mode of choice for one simple reason: it's easy.
It's a principle in Copenhagen that we always have the bike lanes right next to the sidewalk. In this way, the parked cars will protect the bicyclists, and that's a much better system.
They've gone out of their way to make sure everything's easy for the cyclist.
They have asked the people in Copenhagen, why are you bicycling? Is that because it's good for climate? Yeah, a little percentage. Is that because it's good for health? Yeah, a little percentage. Is that because it's cheap? Yeah. But is that because it's convenient and fast? Yeah.
People have been riding bikes forever almost in Copenhagen. I mean, it's like, would probably be the best city in the world to be on a bike.
Cycling is already part of the life of this city. Looking to the future, the challenge is to make more room for the growing army of cyclists. For them, it is a tried and tested road they are happy to continue to drive down.
In the last 5 years, we have built 5 great bridges for biking infrastructure, and I think the next 5 years we'll have to build 5 more.
They do exactly as we did with the traffic in the 70s. They are doubling the width of the bicycle lanes, taking another lane from the cars, giving it to the bicycles. That's why Copenhagen is in many ways the city of the 21st century.
If you had any doubt about the way this is going, just look all around you. In just a few weeks, this cycle lane will be wider, giving more room for bikes at the expense of cars. In this future cities, 2 wheels rules.
The growing number of cyclists is a problem of which this city is proud. While other cities catch on to the benefits of bicycle schemes, Copenhagen moves on cheerfully to phase 2.
Well, that was certainly an interesting video on cycling in Copenhagen. The ambassadors will have a chance to try it out on trishaws this afternoon at the Georgetown Heritage Trail. So maybe they can inspire a few Penangites to start cycling around. I would now like to invite Ms. Maxine Carr, a research analyst in the Urban Studies Department of Penang Institute, who is stepping in for Mr. Stuart MacDonald. Maxine.
Hello. Apologies, Stuart couldn't be here today, so I'll be delivering on his behalf. Okay. Penang's vision is to become an international livable city, and green urban development will be central to achieving this. In recent years, there has been a conscious effort towards more green urban development, and this has laid the groundwork for future plans. Such plans should have a long-term perspective with short-term targets backcasted. This will be necessary in order for Penang to become not only a sustainable city, but one which can continue to attract and retain talent and investment. Before we go into recommendations for Penang, let's take a look at what's been achieved so far. Okay. Here we will look at the foundations that have been put in place over the past 5 years: planning, transport, housing, environment, and public spaces. Planning. Significant efforts have been made to lay the groundwork for more sustainable, greener urban development. Batu Kawan Eco-Town, for example, a new major township on the mainland, has been planned and is currently under development, guided by Eco-Town planning principles. It's expected that this major development will serve as a template for future developments. Georgetown World Heritage Inc., the Georgetown Special Area Plan, and the Botanic Gardens Special Area Plan have all been established to protect, conserve, and promote Georgetown's built and natural heritage. The gardens have also been expanded from 72 acres to over 500 acres in recent years. The Penang Hill Corporation has been enacted, and the Penang Hill Special Area Plan is currently open for consultation. A statewide transport master plan was commissioned and was completed in 2012. A Penang Transport Council was also established in 2011. The plans have been developed with a level of public engagement not seen before, and while there is still much progress to be made, the process of planning Penang's future is becoming more open and transparent. Oops, sorry. Apologies, I've lost my slide. Okay. Yes, Rapid Penang was introduced in 2007, replacing a fragmented service and an aging fleet. Disabled-friendly buses were also introduced. The Scania fleet have significantly lower emissions, using exhaust gas recirculation systems to fulfill European standards. Park and ride schemes have been developed with free bus services for those commuting across the Penang Bridge, and there is also a free central area transit bus which circulates around Georgetown, which transports locals and tourists around the city centre. Smarter travel information is now available to help make public transport easier to use. A no-car Sunday has been initiated on the streets of central Georgetown, promoting cycling for recreation and also for transport. Cycle lane master plans for the state have been developed and are now being rolled out to promote safer cycling and greater use of cycling as a mode of transportation. Housing. A 500 million ringgit affordable housing programme has been initiated by the state government, and the Prima programme is also run by the federal level. A total of 40,000 new homes are being developed within existing urban areas to prevent urban sprawl. Environment. The Cleaner, Greener Penang campaign was launched in 2008 to raise environmental awareness, change mindsets, and develop an environmental movement. This has served as a banner for a wide range of green initiatives. Polystyrene food cartons have been banned, and a no-free plastic bag campaign started. The Penang Green Council was also established to harness green technology in Penang's industries. Food waste and used oil recycling projects have been successfully piloted. 11 food waste converter machines have been installed on the island so far, in schools, wet markets, and hawker centres. Community composting programs have been developed on the island and on the mainland. Better Penang is a mobile phone application that provides an opportunity to give instant feedback to the local authorities. Citizens can engage with the authorities with public cleansing and local environmental issues being highlighted, allowing quicker responses. And lastly, public space. A new public square has been developed at the top of Penang Hill, and a new public park was recently opened in Straits Green. There is also a significant new rooftop park under development at the International Convention and Exhibition Centre known as SPICE. Lastly, there is also the planned Heritage Square at Comtar Phase 5 in the centre of Georgetown. The Greening Master Plan for Georgetown was developed in 2010 and is currently in the process of being rolled out. Carnarvon Street was the first phase of a project to transform the heritage area into a green zone. The first business improvement district in Asia was also established in Georgetown. Okay, so to summarise where we are, the foundations for greener, more sustainable urban development have been built. The institutional and governance framework has been strengthened to better manage the challenges. Many of the plans developed have also been agreed upon. The shift in trajectory towards green urban development began only relatively recently, so we have yet to see major results, for Penang is still in the first phase of achieving this vision. Importantly, the way in which Penang perceives the role of the city is also changing. The past 50 or so years of Penang's development has been on industrialization. Penang is now beginning to acknowledge that quality of life or livability of the city will shape future outcomes. The Penang Paradigm. The Penang Paradigm was completed earlier this year and will act as the state's blueprint for the next 10 years. The Penang Paradigm focuses on the creation of a balanced society by promoting 6 main traits: culturally vibrant, materially prosperous, politically empowered, socially progressive, and intellectually creative, and environmentally sustainable. This will be achieved by giving equal attention to economic dynamism, social development and inclusion, and livability and sustainability. The livability and sustainability chapter of the Penang Paradigm featured these 6 areas. In creating a more livable, sustainable, and green urban development, key policy areas can no longer be addressed in isolation. Policy areas need to be integrated both vertically and horizontally. Vertically, by ensuring federal, state, and local efforts are linked and complementary. Horizontally, by ensuring silos are broken down and partnership working is effective. Big challenges remain to be addressed. For planning, planning is largely shut off from public debate. Current zoning practices and incentive frameworks are not promoting sustainable mixed-use development. There is a poor relationship between the island and the mainland. There is increasing traffic and congestion. There are a lack of transport options, and there are limits to the state power with regard to transport improvements. There is limited land, a growing population, increasing house prices, a lack of affordable homes, poor building maintenance, and low-cost housing policies no longer fit for purpose. Fragmented environmental management, development and commercial activities negatively affecting environmental quality, lack of investment in sewage and waste management infrastructure. And lastly, public spaces. There is insufficient public space, insufficient maintenance and management of the public realm, and poor accessibility and connectivity. The Penang paradigm proposed solutions to tackle these challenges. Each set of recommendations has been broken down into short 5-year and longer 10-year targets. For planning, we've identified 3 key areas for improvement. Improving the system of planning, short and long term. Managing growth sustainably, short and long term. And enhancing the built environment. For transport, we've identified 4 key areas. Rationalising governance to improve our transportation system. We need to work closely with the federal government to develop governance structures which are fit for purpose. Again, there are short and long-term goals. Building strategic road links and upgrading works are required to strengthen the core road network. Improving public transport. In the short term, we can build on our bus-based transport system with more effective routing and increased capacity. And lastly, upgrading walking and cycling facilities, short and long-term goals. For housing, we identified 3 crucial areas for improvements. Improve governance and management. There needs to be more proactive management of housing in the state to ensure supply is matching need as well as demand. Again, short and long term. Steering private sector development. And increasing access to housing. In environment, there are again 3 key areas. First, improving management. A more joined-up view of environmental management needs to be taken. Second, tackling waste and pollution. And the need to acknowledge that challenges climate change will likely face, and use this opportunity to reduce our environmental impact. And lastly, public space. Increasing the quality and quantity. We need to address the deficit in public space and convert underutilized spaces into areas for healthy recreation. Second, making public spaces better connected as part of a green network. And lastly, better managing and maintaining our public realm. If we can pull together these greener, sustainable strategies in planning, transportation, housing, environment, and public space, then Penang can truly become an international livable city in the future. Thank you.